Welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube. I'm here at my office, better known as my man cave. I have the pleasure to have a gentleman on the show who I did a radio show with, or rather impromptu radio show in some way. A captain, United States Marine Corps, Chaz Henry. Well, sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Great to be here. Captain retired. It's been a long time since I wore the railroad tracks, but
Folks, he wants me to call him Chaz. I wanted to call him Captain, but I'm going to call him Chaz because I don't want to get him upset. But anyway, Captain, tell me a little bit. Where are you right now?
well, I'm in Northern Virginia, suburban DC, inside the DC Beltway. I did my last couple of tours in the Marine Corps here after a 20-year career. And I grew up in Northern California. My wife and I always thought we might head back to California after I retired from the Marines, but we came to love this area and so stayed. And now I've been here longer than I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, well, you are a journalist by trade. You did a lot of stuff with security and stuff. Give us why did you go in the Marines and when did you go in the Marines?
So I enlisted in the Marines when I was 17. I was still in high school on the delay entry program. And this was 1975. I joined on the 200th birthday of the Marine Corps bicentennial. And then in the following summer, in July of 76, went on active duty. And I joined, I think, to prove to myself that I could do it. I had been involved in the Marine Corps Junior ROTC. We had a fabulous instructor, Master Sergeant Norman Frederick Steele, who was as tough and rugged and as you would expect from his name. And he set a great example, and I'm sure that was part of what influenced me. But I was looking to prove myself, to be out on my own, start making my own way in life. And the Marine Corps provided that to me and more. Virtually everything that I have been able to claim over these past 3-4 decades has in some way resulted from my Marine Corps service.
Yeah. So when you went in, did you go like to officer training school, or did you go in a low ranking?
I was a private in recruit training, and because of my junior ROTC training, I was a Lance Corporal out of boot camp. But I was enlisted for 6.5, 7 years. I was an enlisted journalist. And because I had actually started.
Hold on a second. I got 2 dogs, and my daughter just came, and my granddaughter just came in the house, and the dog started barking.
Okay.
So we're going to take a little break right here. Yeah, we'll close the door.
Bark?
He won't bark. My man Sam is over in the other chair. The other dog is a Chihuahua. She barks at everything.
It's in the job description.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
So tell me again, you enlisted and you went in as a private, right?
Right. So I went to boot camp because I'd been in the junior ROTC program. I was guaranteed Lance Corporal after graduating boot camp. And well, no, I take that back. Oh, I need to, if you can ask the question again, but I realized that this is going back a long time. I was going to get Lance Corporal after I successfully graduated from my occupational school. So I'm sorry, can you pick it up again, please?
Okay. And what did you do, and how did you get up to the rank of captain?
Well, I started off as a private in boot camp. I went to the school for enlisted journalists. It was a joint service school at Fort Benjamin Harrison, Indiana. Had Marines, sailors, soldiers, airmen there. And then for 6.5, 7 years, I was an enlisted journalist. So I traveled all over Asia, East Africa, Australia, writing for the Marine Corps newspapers, and did 2 Western Pacific deployments based out of Hawaii, and then transferred to the 2nd Marine Division in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. Spent some time there in Central America. And while I was there, I was selected to become a warrant officer, which is a technical specialist officer in public affairs. And,
yeah, a warrant officer is a guy who's just below an officer, and he's as far as an enlisted man goes, he's at the top, and everybody says a warrant officer is a guy you got to listen to.
It's supposed to be someone with a lot of experience, and I had some experience
Yeah.
when I was selected. So I went off for, at the time it was 4 months then of a basic platoon commander's course that you went through in the Marine Corps, irrespective of the job you were going to do. And from there, I went to Hollywood, literally. The Marine Corps assigned me to a small office. There were just four of us Marines, a major, a warrant officer, a gunnery sergeant, and a sergeant. And we worked with the motion picture industry, trying to get good portrayals of Marines on movie screens and TV screens. And
Did you get to meet any of the famous actors and actresses?
I did. The biggest film we worked on during my years there was Heartbreak Ridge, the Clint Eastwood picture.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was unofficial support. What do we call it? Courtesy assistance, because the Defense Department had decided not to support the film. They didn't like actually the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs didn't like the language used in the film, and so they turned down official support. But we were able to help a bit here and there, and in the end,
language, that's the real life, you know.
There is that. I think that
Shout out, you don't say, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah, this fellow had a different military experience. He was at Navy captain before he became a civilian in DOD, and so I don't know. Maybe he'd lived a more sheltered life than the rest of us.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That had to be a great experience. Traveling all over like that. Where did you like the most? What was one of your favorite assignments?
well, so when I was traveling as an enlisted journalist, I was in Japan, Okinawa, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the Philippines, Kenya. We sat off of Iran for a long time while the hostages were being held. But I got there after the raid attempts, so we didn't really do anything other than sit there. Um, I don't know if I've had one favorite place, because later on in my career, I did a lot of traveling around Europe and the Middle East. I've enjoyed every place I've gone, because every place I've gone, I've learned something.
Yeah.
And every place, with one exception, I've made friends. And sometimes this is with journalists from that country. We have, that reporting in common. And so I don't know that I've had a favorite, but I found them all interesting. I found Saudi Arabia the most interesting. I didn't make any friends. I've made friends every place I've been, and I've been in countries all over the Middle East. In Saudi Arabia, I didn't make any friends. It was an odd place, the culture and such, but interesting nonetheless. And I've enjoyed traveling every place.
Yeah, I envy you. You know, I love to travel, and when I was working, I was with the uh, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and we'd go to conventions all over the country. And I always found time to go to a museum or someplace. I love to travel and meet the people. Even when I was in the service, I tried to do that a lot, but I have nowhere near the experiences you had with all these countries. I'm envious.
Well,
I'm en-
I didn't value it at first. When I began to value it, so I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. There wasn't money for college. People in my family hadn't gone to college. Some hadn't graduated high school. But so I felt that I was behind. I always felt behind my classmates, my high school classmates who went on to college and such. But I came back after a few years in the Marine Corps and got together with some friends who were doing well. They were doing well in college. Some were getting ready to go to law school and such. And I found that the thing they were envious of me of was travel. And it wasn't until I realized that I valued it the way that I should have, but I wasn't mature enough, at the time to understand. And the big lesson that I took from that I really value to this day is that there are so many ways to live on Earth. That when we live in one place and we assume that the whole world is sort of like us, living in the same circumstances
yeah,
as us and the people around us. And you realize when you travel and you can see people, even you're traveling around the U.S., you realize there are differences. And I really value that understanding, because it makes a lot of other things more understandable.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, that's the one thing I found. I've only did 4 years in the service, but I traveled around a little bit, and you learn the culture and the people, the different ways of life, and what they value. And yeah, yeah, I'm envious, really envious. But you also did some TV, or is that true?
So after I left Los Angeles, so from my earliest days in the Marine Corps, I started going to college at night. There would be classes offered on base here and there. So I took classes in Hawaii on base, then in North Carolina. Um, and I gathered credits. And by the time I got to Los Angeles, I had maybe a couple of years worth of credits. I went to school in Los Angeles for a while at California State University, Los Angeles. And then when I finished that tour in Los Angeles, I was eligible for a college degree program as a warrant officer. I could go for 18 months full time and finish a bachelor's degree. And so I applied for that and I was accepted. And I was accepted to the film school at the University of Southern California. And so I was able to go 18 months full time. I continued to collect my Marine Corps salary at, I didn't have to work at Burger King, but still there were a lot of other costs. This is the old GI Bill, which was okay, but USC was very expensive and it took some of our savings as well. But there's no other way that I could have been able to do that. And so I was able to finish a bachelor's degree in the film school. And because of that experience, and then because I had been working in Los Angeles with film and television companies, my next assignment was to the Washington, D.C. area, where they had me produce a weekly half-hour television program for the Navy Department. So there's sailors and Marines working together on this television program. And so I did that for a time, had some interesting experiences. We went to Poland in 1990, perhaps, for the first ship visit of a United States ship to Poland since World War II. And you recall this is sort of, the end of the Cold War is happening at that time. And that was really interesting. And then Iraq was invaded at that time. And I took a team over and we set up a bureau in the Middle East. And we covered that war. When the combat occurred, I grabbed a video camera and I hooked up with a Marine battalion, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines, and went into Kuwait with them on the attack.
Oh, so you actually do filming the battle scenes and what was going on?
Such as the battle was. It was the 100-hour battle, you'll recall, and we were under artillery fire as we first entered the country, but the resistance fell apart pretty quickly, and shot a lot of video of enemy prisoners of war being handled as they surrendered, and then our taking of the airport, Kuwait International Airport, in February. And so I did that. Then I did my last tour. I was selected to become a combat camera officer. And in that scenario, I was promoted directly from Chief Warrant Officer 3 to captain. And so I never had to be a lieutenant in my Marine Corps career. And was able to skip that. And I did one tour, and that got me very close to 20 years. I would have been in 20, but as it was, I was in 19 years, 6 months, and 25 days because some health issues popped up. And so I was medically retired just before 20 years. They eventually created some serious problems for me, but not right away. So after I left the Marine Corps, I went to graduate school at Georgetown University, thanks to the VA. Again, opportunities that I never would have had otherwise. I did a semester of my work at Oxford University in England, where I had a member of the European Parliament as my tutor. And I just opportunities, again, all thanks to the Marine Corps. And so I finished that, and with the intention of reporting, I studied security studies, and with the intention of being a reporter specializing in that. And so for then 25 years beyond that, I worked in television and mostly radio, covering defense, intelligence, homeland security, and veterans issues. That was very rewarding.
You did some local TV, not just for the Defense Department, but you're on a local TV channel.
Right, the ABC affiliate in Washington, D.C.
Now you're on Central Florida Salute YouTube. You really stepped it up.
It took a long way to get to this point, but I finally achieved
you're here, man.
The pinnacle.
Yeah. But I know there's something Matter of fact, do you have a copy of that book? You can hold it up.
Oh, well, this is my latest project. See if I can hold it without the
There you go. That's it. You got it done now.
yeah. So
Fuji,
yeah,
talk about the book.
this is something I fell into. Um, so I had and my last sort of big hurrah in journalism was at the in 2019, um, October, November 2019, marked the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And for the Westwood One radio network, where I'd been doing hourly newscasts and serving as their defense correspondent, I went to Germany, spent a couple of weeks there interviewing people who had been there when the wall fell, um, and putting together a half-hour documentary about those circumstances. My wife came with me, and we came back to DC, and I said, let's retire, and we will enjoy a life of leisure travel. You know, you got a little taste of it there on this, coming with me on this trip. She didn't want to, but I convinced her. We retired, and then, of course, this is the beginning of 2020, and the pandemic hit.
Yeah,
And
slow down a lot of people.
so we had 5 trips planned that year that fell apart. So I'm looking for something to do, and I'm, you know, because of the health issues that I experienced, the genetic condition required me to, in 2007, have a liver and kidney transplant. Had it done at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. Went exceptionally well, but because my immune system is suppressed in the pandemic situation, I had to be very careful about being out and amongst people. So I'm looking for something to do that I can do from home. I'm posting a bunch of old photos on Facebook, and one of them is of me at this ramshackle little Marine Corps camp at the base of Mount Fuji in 1978. I posted that, and I just tangentially wrote, this was about a year before the big fire there. And I was shocked by the number of people, particularly fellow Marines, who asked what fire, because this super typhoon, fuel spill, and fire that occurred there in October of 1979 had left 73 injured, 54 of them were burned, 13 died. And it was a kick in the gut around the Marine Corps. And I was shocked that so few people seemed to remember. I was also embarrassed by a Facebook response from another friend, a guy I'd known since 1981, who said, you know, I escaped from a burning hut there. I'd never realized he had been in the epicenter of this tragic incident. So this got me started, and I started thinking, well, maybe I can put a podcast together or something. I'll see what I can find out about this incident. And I came to realize very quickly that just 2 weeks after it had happened, the U.S. hostages were taken in Iran. And a lot of people will remember that hostage situation. It lasted 444 days. You know, the nation was focused on this, these Americans being held in Tehran. And because of that, what attention had been focused on the tragedy in Japan just went away. It shifted and never came back. So I began doing some research. And the challenge, of course, was finding people who had been there. My friend, of course, was a good start, but I was able to get some paperwork from another friend who had thought about writing a book. In 1986, he'd done a Freedom of Information Act request and had gotten about 3/4 of an inch worth of photocopied material. And he very kindly shared that with me. He had not been able to interest the publisher in the project, so he shared it with me. I had another copy of the investigation that was highly redacted. A lot of things crossed out. But between these two, I was able to do a page-by-page reconstruction and basically end up with an investigation copy where nothing was blacked out. And what that helped me with is all the names were included. And so I spent a lot of money on postage stamps, and then using these online research tools where you look for people. I would find people who had the same name as somebody, seemed to be about the same age, and I might have 5 or 6 candidates for that, and I'd send 5 or 6 letters. I'd mail out these letters, and of course, many of them came back. Most of them, of course, even in the case where one person was, that'd be 4 who weren't. And over the course of a year or two, I ended up finding a lot of people who had been at the camp when it happened, and in the end, after 4 years and travel within the U.S., which I could do after the pandemic settled down, visiting archives and individual people. I spent a week at the Army Burn Center in San Antonio, where 37 of the guys had been treated, the worst burn, and then went to Japan for a couple of weeks toward the latter part of this 4 years of working on the project. And at a certain point, I realized that a book hadn't been written about this. I was really shocked at how little documentation there was.
Friday, a typhoon toppled a huge fuel storage tank at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan. The resulting fire swept a U.S. Marines barracks there. One Marine died instantly, but today it turns out the tragedy was greater than at first reported. Of 37 badly burned Marines, 19 have less than a 50-50 chance of survival.
Having witnessed a lot of bad things, ugly things, none can compare to that experience.
The Marine Corps had not done any sort of little official history of it, or so I realized that I probably have a book here, and I shifted my project toward that end. And then, in fact, on June 1st, not long ago, the University of Nebraska Press published Fugi Fire, Sifting Ashes of a Forgotten U.S. Marine Corps Tragedy.
Oh, wow. Wow. So how long did you work on this book?
So 4 years, probably a little bit more than 4 years, in the U.S. and abroad. I hit all the major archives, National Archives, Library of Congress, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps archives. And I realized it was a very long story to include this super typhoon that sort of was the basic problem that instigated this fuel spill and then fire. It still holds the record as the strongest or the most intense and largest tropical cyclone ever, Typhoon Tip in 1979. And
By surprise, kind of, I gather.
I'm sorry?
The storm caught a lot of people by surprise?
It did. They'd been tracking it, but communications, even in 1979, wasn't what it is now. And Camp Fuji was, there were no social media, there was no, email. Camp Fuji was pretty remote, even though it was on the main island of Japan, on Honshu. It was in this rural area. They got newspapers once a day. The newspaper the day before had said that it looked as if the storm was going to hit Okinawa. And in fact, it did sweep by Okinawa before it came up to mainland Japan and then over this camp where it created the problems. But and there had been some emailed weather reports. There were some other issues about even the people running the camp may have gotten some word. It took a little while to get uphill to this area where units came up to train. They just came up for short periods of time, anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. And the Marines that were hurt by this disaster were in that situation. They'd come up from Okinawa, were going to be there about 3 or 4 months, and had only been there 10 days, 9-10 days before this storm hit. And some fuel bladders that had been placed uphill of the camp behind a berm, but still on this sloping ground. The storm dropped more rain in a day than they typically got in a month there. The water accumulated behind this berm, which was just made up of this volcanic soil at the base of the volcano. And there was a breach, 15, 20-foot breach. And this rubberized fabric bladder containing gasoline floated into that breach. It was attached to pumps, which they used to pump the fuel into Jeeps or tanks or Amtraks. A pump fell into that breach. It had a hard piece of metal frame, very sharp edge, that sliced a 5-foot rip in the bladder. 5,500 gallons of gasoline flowed downhill into these Quonset huts. It's floating on top of the water that's already flooding into the Quonset huts. And the huts were heated by open flame kerosene heaters. So vapors rose, and as you would expect, there were ignitions that then spread across the camp.
You could see the fire on top of the water. The water was like up to your knees, and the fire was on top of it. When we opened the front door to try to go out the front door, we were already burning up.
You heard this whoosh, whoosh, and you saw the flames leap from the stove across the floor. Just the entire floor was standing in fuel, and it's ignited. and everybody's faces are illuminated red in the flames.
Well, sounds like it's going to be a great book. I hope it's sells a lot for you. But
Well,
where would you get the book?
so the book's available wherever anybody gets books. You can get it through Amazon. If you order it directly from the University of Nebraska Press, from their site, there are some deals to be had. Uh, so it's worth checking that site. There's an audiobook out also. It's on Kindle. So basically, if you go to your local bookstore, they can order it for you also. Um, the
Called
this,
Fugi on
this,
Fire,
this,
right?
I'm sorry.
The title of the book is Fugi on Fire.
It's Fugi Fire,
Fugi
Sifting
Fire.
Ashes of a Forgotten U.S. Marine Corps Tragedy. And well, the sales will be helpful in that my wife's success metric for this is that I make back the $10,000 or $15,000 I spent doing the research. So, that will be helpful. But my main motivation here is these guys who were impacted are all about my age. I had been at the camp, a year and a half beforehand. I knew that area. And the fact that this has been forgotten, I had an email from a Marine who had been there during the fire the other day who said, because this is never mentioned in any Marine Corps history, those of us who were there feel a little guilty. It's almost as if they're asking, did we do something wrong? Why is the Marine Corps not acknowledging that this happened? And so, filling this gap in our Marine Corps history, acknowledging what these guys endured, and in many cases, in very inspiring ways, is something that makes me think that, of everything I've done in my Marine Corps and my journalism career, I think this might be the most meaningful.
Well, I'm glad you came on our show, because our show, we are not for profit, and it's all about service, sacrifice, honor, and educate. So we want stories like yours to come out to educate young people, because a lot of them don't know, they don't even know what the Hanoi Hilton is, or
Yeah, and you have to expect that. Kids grow up and they don't have those points of
it's
reference.
not taught.
So what you're doing is useful in that way. It's they need to be retaught. And I mentioned this to you once before. One reason I was very excited to come on Central Florida Salute was because there is a Central Floridian who is in absolute need of a salute in the circumstance of the Fugi Fire, and that's a physician by the name of Cesar Sarmiento, who practices medicine in Leesburg, Florida, and led an Air Force team that responded to this fire and just did incredible work with this team, getting these Marines ready to be evacuated and gotten more quickly to medical care.
Reach out to him and get him on the show too.
That would be great. He definitely saved Marine Corps lives, and I talked to Marines who attest to that fact. And that was fortunately my wife and I were able not long ago to pass through Leesburg and have lunch with him, and I was proud to be able to, on behalf of these other Marines, pass on, the fact that what he did was not forgotten.
Yeah, well, when you come to Leesburg, I'm picking up the tab for the lunch.
Okay. I'll look forward. We'll take you up on that.
I got a kick out of the radio show. For those people who are watching this don't know, I am on the Q radio, 1410 AM radio, 95.1 FM here in Leesburg, with a guy named James Floyd runs it. It's a great guy who wants to promote veterans and veterans issues. So I appear on there with a couple other guys, and we decided we were going to do a radio program with you. Unfortunately, there was a problem with the phone call in. So I had to call you, and I don't know if people can picture this. I'm doing an interview with you on a cell phone right next to the microphone going, tell me a little bit more. Well, we got it done though.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yep. Well, listen, it's a pleasure talking to you. Once again, you can get the book almost anywhere, and I hope it sells well for you. You and I have a couple mutual friends, one of them being Colonel Keith Oliver.
A mentor of mine.
He's a great
Marine.
Yeah, he is. But I think it's time to say goodbye. I told you a little bit about how we do this, so you're going to join me in a salute. To all our veterans out there, active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time, thank you, Captain. Today I'm at AMVETS Post 2006, a major sponsor of Central Florida Salute. And I want to introduce to you the commander here, Ronnie Mack. Ronnie, tell us a little bit about AMVETS 2006. Where are you located? And
we are at 500 North Canal Street, Leesburg, Florida. It's right off of 441, between 441 and Main Street on Canal. Can't miss us. And we're a veterans organization, along with, we have an auxiliary, and we have sons of veterans that are related some form or another to a veteran. And we do a lot for a lot of charitable donations and stuff to charities in the area and in the county, and we're a major sponsor to Central Florida Salute. We're proud of it. We're glad to be. You guys do a heck of a job, and we'll sponsor you as long as I'm here. We're going to sponsor you. So.
Well, I'll tell you what, we do. Sue and I really appreciate it. We're a two-person operation, and what we try to do with education and supporting our veterans community, and you supporting us is major thing. It's major.
We're glad to do it, Bob. We're glad to do it.
And you have sons here, you have auxiliary here. You've got a website too if somebody wants to join.
Yep, it's don't punch into www. It's amvets-2006.org, and it'll take you right to our website, Facebook page, and all that's there, and you'll be able to find that. The webmaster, he tries to get the calendar on there every month, anything pertinent. There's a lot of other links on there for veterans to find out where to get help for certain claims and stuff like that. Our webmaster's really into that stuff. That's the guy you ought to be interviewing right there. So,
well, you know what,
he's got
Ronnie?
a lot of stuff.
You have a lot of clout. You tell him to talk to me, and we'll get him on the show. Okay?
I can do that.
All right. But I just want to, on behalf of Sue and myself, we want to thank AMVETS 2006 because you guys are the major players behind us, and we appreciate it.
But we just wish we could do more. We really do.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.